Hello, and welcome to Texans Talk Money. I'm Vivian, your host, a pure financial coach here at Texans Smart. In every episode, my co-host Hunter and I will be joined by another pure financial coach from our office, where we will be navigating all the roads on how to handle your money as a college student. So sit back and get your wallets ready to be Texans Smart.
Hello, and welcome to Texans Talk Money. We're your host, Hunter McCrory,
And Vivian Ruiz.
pure financial coaches at Texans Smart. With this week, we're going to be discussing credit cards.
All right, quick question. Raise your hand if you've ever thought it's fine. I'll just put it on my card. Me too. Welcome to Texans Smart's first podcast of the year, where we talk about stuff no one warns you about until it's already a problem. Today's topic is credit cards, everyone's favorite topic to talk about.
Credit cards can be a powerful tool or a financial nightmare, and the difference usually comes down to what you know before you swipe. So if you're in college, thinking about getting a credit card, already have one, or currently avoiding your banking app, this episode is for you. Let's break it down without boring finance talk.
Credit cards just hit different in college. You're broke, you're tired, you're hungry, and suddenly someone offers you free money with a Starbucks sign-up bonus. I mean, it's harmless. It's just $20. I'll pay it off later. I deserve it. I survive midterms.
Here's the thing. Credit cards don't feel like real money. There's no cash leaving your hand, no account balances screaming at you immediately, but make no mistake, you are borrowing money, not spending free money. And that's the truth, Vivian. It really is.
I know, I really just wanted that Starbucks bonus.
It feels like free money, but once you go to pay it off, it hurts really bad. And credit card companies love college students because they know that the majority will consider being able to make the minimum payments as a good payment, as good budgeting, which just ensures the credit card companies will make a ton of money off their lack of knowledge. And
they are betting on you for not knowing the full understanding of knowledge of credit cards.
Oh, that's exactly what they're doing. They want you to not realize how it works and then sit there and rack up interest on you that they're going to collect. So, how credit cards actually work? Let's break it down. Basically, what you're doing is you're borrowing other people's money for a short-term loan. And then you have a credit limit, which is how much you can spend on that card. With that card, you have to make a monthly payment back to that, whether it's the full amount that you spent or just a minimum payment. If you only make the minimum payment, then you're going to get charged interest on top of that. And how that works is you can have anywhere from 16% interest all the way up to 24%. Most credit cards are a variable rate interest loan, and so it can change. So let's say you make one minimum payment or just miss a payment. You're going to be paying up to possibly 24% of what you owe on that card.
And that's just rude.
That's dangerous.
I mean, just think about it. You think you're paying the minimum interest, but in reality you're paying more money than you would expect, so you have no extra money for food, shoes, or just whatever you want, even though you definitely should not put whatever you want on a credit card.
Have you ever had to pay just a minimum payment or missed a payment before?
I play the fifth.
It can be dangerous.
Let's talk about your credit scores. Credit scores, think of it as a transcript. They follow you absolutely everywhere. For renting an apartment, buying a car, interest rate, sometimes even jobs. And no, you do not have to be rich to have a good credit score. You just need to be consistent.
The score is mainly based on your payment history, your credit utilization, and the length of your credit history. So there's a lot of different things that play into your credit score, but one wrong step can lead to a bad repercussion on your credit score. And credit scores are very useful and good to build in the future when trying to get loans for an automobile or a house and stuff like that.
I mean, just as an example, say your credit card, your limit is $20,000, does not mean you should use all $20,000. Try to stay under 30% of your limit.
Yeah, I think it can be really dangerous if you get and hit your limit each month, unless you know you're going to have that money to be able to pay it back and you budgeted for that. If you're hitting that limit and you're just like, I'll find a way to pay it off, I don't think you're going to be able to most of the time.
I mean, credit cards aren't about how much money you can spend. They're about how well you manage spending that money.
I completely agree. Common college credit card mistakes. Well, let's think about it. Many college students don't have much money. I personally don't. I'm sure Vivian doesn't either. But
Unfortunately, I do not.
being able to get handed a credit card, which has the availability to spend a lot of money, is really nice. And college kids also have a lot of wants. I can tell you right now about a list of 5 things that I want, and I'm sure Vivian has many more things that she wants.
Gotta love being a girl in college.
But that doesn't mean I can go buy those things with a credit card, because I'm still going to have to pay that back, whether it be shoes or going on a trip with friends.
Or simply just going out to eat because you got tired of the dining hall. Because I know I've gotten tired of the dining hall food multiple times.
I don't get tired of the dining hall food. But that doesn't mean we can go out and just spend all the money we want on these credit cards, because as a college kid, you're not going to be able to necessarily pay for all those things that you want. And it's really important to differentiate between your wants and your needs, because needs need to be paid for. Your food, that is being smart, like going to the grocery store and stuff like that.
Not going to the fast food where you can just make it at home.
Exactly. And other stuff that's important, like books and your
classes, tuition, stuff like that. Stuff that you know that you actively need.
Those are important to pay for, whereas your wants need to come second. You need to make sure that your needs are met, and then you can pay for your wants. And those wants shouldn't be paid for on your credit card, because remember, whatever you spend on that credit card, you're gonna have to pay back. Okay, so now let's talk about how to use credit cards the smart way. We've explained them a little bit, but there is a good way to use credit cards. The biggest thing is building a credit score and using them for a little bit of cash back on your bills and stuff like that. Everybody has a different opinion on how to use a credit card correctly, and some people say they shouldn't be used at all. It just depends on what you as a person believe, and if building your credit at a young age is really important, a credit card's a great way to do that.
I mean, absolutely, there's multiple ways that you can build a credit, but there's always one thing that I tell people, or I emphasize so much about, is making sure you're tracking how much money you spend, so then you know exactly how much you need to pay, and you don't have to pay interest on it.
Exactly, and I completely agree. And I think another great part about credit cards that it's important to talk about is fraud protection. If somebody else gets a hold of your card information and uses it, it's covered by the bank because it's under a credit card. If it's in your debit account or a checking account on your debit card, it won't necessarily get covered by your banking institution. So credit cards can be great in that sense, like shopping online, where I feel like your information could be vulnerable to getting stolen. It's a great resource for that. But like I said, most stuff you buy online is a want. I mean, I
completely agree, because I always try to think credit cards almost like a debit card, because you always look at your checking account and know, okay, I can't spend this much money this week because I have to set aside so much money to pay for whatever I need. So that's why I always try to think credit card is a debit card.
I think that's a great way to look at it. Treating it like a debit card, only spending what you can, is great. And a great way to do that is by reflecting it off of your checking account balance, is acting like your credit card has the same balance as your checking account. But it is good to also look at the benefits, like I said, and keep it safe when purchasing stuff on a credit card. Finally, let's talk some real talk at the moment. Credit cards aren't evil, but they're not magical either. What do you think, Vivian? Do you think they're evil, or do you think they're magical, or neither?
Honestly, I'm kind of in between, because I always see the benefits, but I can also see the negatives of them, especially as a college kid. And then as college kids still don't understand how they work once they get in the real world, I see plenty of adults not understanding how to have a credit card, and then on top of that, as an adult, dealing with all the interest and just paying off this credit card that they thought when you first turned 18, you're like, oh, I got a credit card. But now it's like, no, you actually have to pay that off. It's finally catching up to you.
Yeah, I think it's kind of crazy how many adults misuse their credit card. I've noticed it as I've gotten older, and a lot of adults don't know how to use a credit card. And I think a big thing is learning how to use it if you're going to have one at a young age, and instilling it in your brain how to correctly manage your money with a credit card. And that starts at a young age when you first get it. I mean, I don't think it's smart necessarily to go get your first credit card at 28 and just think you can spend a bunch of money and not know how to use it, because you have bigger responsibilities as a 28-year-old than a college student most of the time.
I mean, that's why I go back to where I can go both ways and seeing why credit is evil, but at the same time it's good, because once you get older and say you want to finally get your first car, or you want to rent out an apartment or get your own house, most of these things require a credit score, and it's good to start building it up.
Yes, I 100% agree, because like if you go in to getting a auto loan, your first car, and you don't have a credit score, you're going to have to get a cosigner, and you're not going to get a good interest rate on that auto loan. I think I had a friend not too long ago that got one for I think it was 15% on his auto loan.
Ouch,
which
that
is
kind of hurts.
That put him in a bad spot, but he had no other way to get a vehicle unless he bought it for cash, which he didn't have the cash. So credit is important, and it's really important to think about that at a young age. Credit's not just the thing you figure out when you're older. You need to start it when you're younger, I think, in my opinion.
I completely agree with you, Hunter. If this episode helped you, send it to a friend who swipes first and asks questions later. And remember, financial literacy is a flex. Thank you for listening and I'll catch you in the next episode. Don't forget to find us in room 12 of the Student Center. Remember, be well, be ready, be Texan smart.
This has been Texans Talk Money. Texans Talk Money is produced by Savian Gutierrez in partnership with Tarleton Radio. To learn more about us, follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Texans Smart. Be sure to subscribe to Texans Talk Money wherever you get your podcast.